Hey everybody, Dano here again. Today I'm going to talk about the ZWO SeeStar S50 and some of the accessories I picked up over the last few months. Now in my first video, I was already using the taller tripod, and I also had picked up the leveling base to help speed up leveling. And since then I've picked up a dust plug and a dew shield. I'm going to go over all those accessories and plus a few tips and tricks that I've learned while using this thing over the past few months. The first thing I want to talk about is the tripod that comes with the SeeStar. Now this is great. I mean, it comes with everything you need. It's very short, so you'll have to set it on the ground and get down to level it, which is, can be kind of tough, especially if you're old and decrepit like me. So I had a couple of these tripods right here. I've used this with my Skyguider Pro and my DSLRs for landscape and stuff just because they're so big and they're very sturdy. One of the things about this tripod, and this one as well, is I don't really care for the twist locks on here. So when you're adjusting the level on this thing, you have to untighten and then pull the leg out and push it up a little bit, retighten it, check the level. The twist lock is really not the way to go when trying to level this thing. So it's best to get a tripod that has the clamp lock style or the lever lock style. I can actually hold my phone. I can do it with one hand, and I can adjust the leg and then tighten it back down with one hand. You can't do that with these style tripods. I mean, you can, but it's a lot tougher because you have to sit there and twist that thing and then twist it a few times to get it tight. This right here, this lever lock, is just clip it open, slide it, click it back down. Simple. And so I've found that using this kind of tripod is much easier to get this thing as close to 0.0 as I can, and then I use the leveling base to finish it off, and that's sped up the leveling process tremendously. I'm going to put some links to a smaller tripod that's a little cheaper than this one. I just looked as a filming of this video, it's like 120 bucks, and that's just for the legs. But that's all you need is the legs, because you don't need the ball head. It's got the 3/8 inch and the SeeStar screws directly into it. It's the same adapter as the included tripod. It's just so much easier and quicker to level this thing, because the twist lock is a little tough to do, especially with one hand. That would be the first upgrade that I would consider making, is getting a larger tripod other than the one that's included. Now this is great for travel. If I was going to take this thing on a trip somewhere, like on a flight or something, I can't fit this in my carry-on, so I would probably just take this one and just have to get on my knee and adjust it. This is the Slick AMT, I think it's the DX Pro 700 or something. I'll put a link to this tripod, and I'll also put a link to another one that has these the clamp style locking mechanisms, which just makes it so much easier. Now on to accessory number 2, and I had already picked this up when I made the first video on the SeeStar. One thing to know, there's several brands out there. I just looked on Amazon. There's one going for like 20 bucks. This is a newer or newer. I mean, it's 2 E's. I think it's newer, but it could be newer. I don't know. I need to call them and ask them. But a problem I had, and I mentioned it in the first video, is you have a screw, a washer, and a spring in here. And when I've been adjusting these wheels, I've had the screw completely back out and fall on the ground. Luckily, I was able to find it in the grass. I don't know how I did, but I was able to find all the pieces. So what I do now is, like today, I took this thing off and all the screws were backed out, about to fall out probably, a couple more twists and turns, and I would have been looking for them in the grass again. So what I would do occasionally is just get a little bit of screwdriver and just retighten these things a little bit. And you don't want to over tighten it because then it's going to make that too hard to turn, but that should be good. And I'll just take this thing off and check it and make sure that they're not backing out. But yeah, they were kind of sticking out past the base just about, like this one's could probably go in just a little bit more. That looks good. That looks good. These were the first two upgrades I made, was the base and the tripod. I'm gonna slap this base on here, put the SeeStar on here, and then I'm gonna go level it and show you how fast. But I can get pretty close to 0 with this tripod. This just speeds it up just a little bit more. So this isn't quite necessary. You don't have to have this thing, but it does really help to get it down to 0.0. All right, I'm just gonna take this off of here, and just gonna take the leveling base. It screws right on. Get that tight, and then line up the hole there. And I tighten it down just to where it's just tight and it's not loose or moving. I don't over tighten it because I don't want to mess the SeeStar up, because it is on that little base that turns. One of the things that I like about this the Slick tripod, I think the name's on here somewhere. Yeah, it's the Slick Pro 700DX. It has this base right here, and there's a screw right here on the side. Let me see if I can set this up so you can see it. There's a screw right here that loosens, and then it has this collar on here, and it loosens up. And one of the tricks to do is, so this thing opens up with the power button over here. I'll just switch this around. The power button on this side to my right, the arm is going to open up like that. So what I try to do is I'll loosen that collar up, and I want the SeeStar lined up with the back leg from the direction it's going to open. So I have it lined up with this back leg, and I can go ahead and tighten that down. And that's gonna speed up leveling too, because then once you're using the bubble and you get that thing pretty much lined up to where the two bubbles are like that, then all you have to do is just adjust this back leg up or down. All right, I'm gonna power this thing on. And I'm gonna go ahead and pull up the app here. They just updated the app about 4 weeks ago at the time of this video, and I think it's version 2.0 now. So they did change some things in here.
Ready to connect.
Those are my little noises, but that's normal. So it's connected here. So something new that they've added is, a few updates ago, they had two little arrows where you could manually adjust the arm. And now they changed that. Now it's either open arm or close arm, which I kind of like, because I have this dust plug on here, and I'm going to turn that so you can see when I open it up. What this does is, instead of manually raising this thing, I can just go ahead and hit that arm out, open arm, and it's going to raise up. And so now that this is raised up, I can take the dust plug off and set it to the side. And I have my little dew shield here. I picked this up on Amazon for 15 bucks. People are making these and printing these everywhere. You can find them. This is one of the cheaper ones that I found. And it was just a standalone dew shield, because that's really all I need. And I just hold the SeeStar, and it has a little felt wrap around sticky thing on here, so I just make sure that's not sticking out or anything, and then I'll just pop that in there like that, and it's good to go. And so what this does for me is, I have a really bright street light that the city fixed, and I was very disappointed that they fixed it, because my yard was fairly dark. Now it looks like daylight. What this does is it helps cut that stray light out. It's helped a lot. And I think this is not This isn't too long to where it's causing any kind of vignetting. If you get these dew shields and they're really long, that's going to cause some issues with vignetting and stuff like that. And if they're too short, they're not going to block enough light. So I'm going to measure the actual dew shield itself and see what the length is. Okay, so this dew shield is approximately 3 inches long. So you don't really want one any longer than that. A little shorter might be okay, but I think that's about the right size for the objective. So another thing about the open arm feature is if you're planning on doing solar imaging, you'll just, once it's open like that, and you don't want to open this thing towards the sun. As a matter of fact, when you go out, I would honestly face it, say the sun's over here, I would face it away from the sun and then open it up and then apply the solar filter. And I always try not to touch this thing. You don't want to get your little greasy little fingers on it. And I just pop it in there with that tab facing out, and I use the outer rim there to set it in. And I've used this for the eclipse and just solar imaging in general, and it's a lot of fun. They also sell these replacement filters on a Gina Astro. I have one saved in my wish list in case something ever happens to it. But I'm going to put a link to those as well. And but yeah, I actually do like the new open arm feature. It's pretty useful. You don't have to sit there and hold that button and raise it up. You just hit it and then you can walk over and get your accessories and then come back and put them on. So one more little accessory that I'll just throw in here because, you know, if you don't own any camera gear and this is your first kind of camera or anything like that, it's good to get one of these the blower bulb. You just squeeze it and it blows the air out, because I noticed, I put this in the light, I saw like some dust and stuff. I wasn't using the cap before, but since it's aimed straight down, it really didn't get a lot of dust on there. But, you know, over time it will eventually. So I'll just get that kind of close to there and blow all that dust off. And then I'll put the dew shield on. Now we're ready to level this thing. I'm not going to go over all the features of the update, but they did change some things around. But the main thing I want to go over is to get to the menu section, you'll just hit your name. And I've talked about how you can change that. You'll just go under your Wi-Fi and you can change the name. You can modify it. Let's go back here. So you'll hit on S50 underscore, whatever your name is. You'll tap on that and then you'll come all the way down to advanced feature. And then you'll see adjust level, and we're going to hit adjust. So I'm going to do this one-handed, holding my iPad, and show you the difference between like a twist lock tripod and, you know, one of these clamp-based, or the clamp style. I have the SeeStar facing this back leg when it opens up. So really all I have to do is try to get the green circles on top of each other. Oh, I went too far that way. Let's adjust this one more time. And that's pretty close to being, we'll probably do a little bit more, just a little small. That's pretty good there. So now I can take this back leg, and I went too far. Let me raise that up. And mind you, I'm doing this with one hand. Okay, so we're at 0.5, 0.4, I'm gonna come down just a little bit more. This actually has some weight on it. So I got to 0.4 roughly with one hand. I like to get it a little bit closer to 0 with the tripod legs. There we go. 0.2. And now I'll come up here and adjust this thing and see if I can get it to 0. I'm going to call that good enough. I'm not going to, obsess over getting 0.0. As long as I can get to 0.1, 0.2, I'm pretty good with that. And that's holding right there at 0.1. So that just helps speed up the whole process instead of using the twist lock leg, the clamp style, and this little leveling base. And I'm level and I'm ready to go. I hit finish adjusting and we'll close it out. One thing I'll go over, I'm not going to go over all of the new features. I don't have time. I don't want this video to be an hour long. If y'all want to see something like that, I will come back and do a more in-depth tutorial on this. But I'll just talk about my imaging experience with this thing. So you can go to stargazing, and that's going to pull up a list of tonight's best. So if you're not familiar with the night sky, this is a good way to do it. And let's say we want to shoot Pleiades, the Messier 45, M45. You'll click on that, and it has a nice graph on here telling you when it's going to be transiting and the altitude of the object. What I've found is you don't really want to be shooting too high towards the zenith at like 90 degrees. It's not going to perform very well. I find like between 40 and maybe 70 is the sweet spot. So if you can find an object, between 40 and 70 degrees high in the sky, that's going to be pretty good. And then also I'll go to the Sky Atlas. Let's back out of here. We'll just hit this second tab on the bottom and go to the Sky Atlas. You can scroll around with this and find targets. But the main thing I want to go over today is the meridian goes along the north and the south. So if you're shooting something anywhere close to the meridian, which is that green line right there, see it goes north all the way to the south. So if you are shooting an object that's close to the north or the south, what that meridian is the object's going to be coming closer to the meridian, and a regular equatorial mount has to do a meridian flip because it can't keep tracking in that direction. So it has to flip and then re-aim and start tracking from the other side. Well, this is an all-TAS mount, so you're going to get field rotation in these images. So if you're shooting anything close to the meridian directly south or directly north, you're going to see a lot of rotation because that object, say it's the iPad, is getting close to the meridian. It's going to be like that at meridian, and it's going to rotate some more just past meridian. What I've found is shooting stuff like that, 30 minutes seems to be the sweet spot for me. I tried to push one the other night because I'll just use the image straight out of here to post online sometimes just to show what it can do. But I tried to shoot one the other night and I got up to about 40 minutes. I was like, oh, I'm going to go for 45. Well, when it got right before 45, you start seeing that field rotation noise. It gets really bad on the edges. So you can kind of shorten these. If you're just going to use something that the SeeStar did itself and stacked, you could just use 30 minutes, to be safe. And you should get a nice clean image that way. Now, if you're imaging something directly east or directly west, you could probably get away with about an hour before the field rotation gets too bad. But, if you're wanting to get a serious image out of this thing, you could do multiple nights And I would just say, oh, I'm going to start shooting this thing at 10 o'clock. And I'm going to go out every night it's clear that week around the same time, around 10 o'clock, and just try to get 30 minutes to an hour on it, depending on where it is in the sky. And then you can take all of those images out of your SeeStar and put them in something like Serial. They have a script that will stack these in Serial. And that way you won't have huge field rotation issues when you're stacking. Now, if it's a small image, it won't really matter. I mean, a small target that's right in the center, it won't really matter because you can crop all of that out. But if it's taking up the whole field of view of the sensor, you'll have issues with really noisy edges, and you'll see the rotation. And so you'll have to really crop in on that image to get it looking good. Important process here. Okay, so you're done imaging for the night and you're ready to pack this thing up. So now on the underneath the SeeStar name, it says close arm. Well, you don't want to close this thing with a dew shield on it. Luckily, I haven't done it yet, but I set up these steps. And so what I'll do is that once I'm done imaging, I'll go ahead and take the dew shield off. And then I'll pop the dust cap back on. And now I can either hit close arm and power it off, or I can just go to the advanced menu here and just hit slide to shut down. And it's going to close that arm. My dew shield is off. I'm not in danger of damaging anything or making that, pop that dew shield off, and I have my dust cover back on. So just wanted to show that stuff. And if you want to make using this thing a little bit easier, I would go with a bigger tripod, this leveling base, and then if you have a lot of street lights around you like I do, that dew shield helps a lot. Just wanted to make this one as short as possible. I'm going to see about making a longer one and a more detailed video on this thing. I'm actually going to do a review on it soon, and so if you would, if you're interested in seeing that, you can like, subscribe, and hopefully I'll be back soon with the review on this ZWO SeeStar. All right, clear skies.